The report documents the tremendous challenges states will be facing with being able to fund their education system. Simply put, a growing number of children will be vying with an exploding number of seniors for limited state resources. And the challenge now is, how do we make education more efficient and effective? I can't think of anyone better suited to address this than one of the nation's top education researchers. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Matt Ladner.
The title, by the way, let's see if Governor didn't like the title, but I just want to say I don't want to start an intergenerational conflict here, but we're going to talk about baby boomers and millennials and stuff, but I'm actually a Gen Xer, okay? And I dig me some Bowie, okay? So Bowie's probably a baby boomer, but we're claiming him for us in Gen X, okay? So now you're going to have that song in your head the rest of the day, and I apologize in advance. Okay, so what is this all about? We do face a very large challenge, okay? And as I've gone around the country and talked to people, people are aware of this challenge, but they have it framed in their head as a federal issue, right? We know the baby boomers are getting up there. We know there's problems. We know there's trillions of dollars in unfunded liabilities and Medicare and Social Security and stuff like that. But basically, the point that we're making in this report is that this is coming soon to a state near you, okay? The changes in age demography is going to impact state government, not just the federal government. So for now, I'm going to ask you to put the federal government out of your mind, okay? Uncle Sam has big problems, okay? And those problems, I don't know how they're going to get addressed or if they're going to get addressed, okay? But this same phenomenon is going to impact you here in Florida and in every other state. So I think that Florida is actually uniquely situated to lead on these issues, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to show you something very quickly about your past and how it can inform your action into the future, okay? Now, as the governor mentioned, I'm from Arizona. I live in a distant patch of cactus. This is why I don't know as many of you as I would like. But you may know me as the I'll have what Florida's having guy, right? Wrote a lot of stuff about that. So what's so exciting about Florida? This is a chart from a group of scholars from Stanford, Harvard, and the University of Munich, and it kind of summarizes the whole Florida story in one quick chart, okay? Basically, what they're looking at is the increase in spending, that's down the bottom, okay, horizontal, right? And then the up and down is the improvement in NAEP scores, okay? So how much did you increase spending, and how much did your NAEP scores go up during this period, okay? Now, we can argue about which state you don't want to be on that chart, right? Some people look at this chart and say, man, I really don't want to be Iowa, right? Iowa has an average level of funding increase and barely any improvement, right? Other people might look over there and say, no, I think I don't want to be Wyoming, right? Wyoming had a $6,000 per pupil increase in funding and below average improvement in their NAEP scores, okay? We could talk about that. However, what state do you want to be on this chart? There's only one answer for that. It's you. It's Florida, okay? Florida has the smallest overall increase in per pupil funding. It did go up, right? But the smallest increase and the second to largest NAEP increase, barely missing by a hair, first place, okay? How do you do that? There's only one way to do that. You succeeded in increasing the bang for the buck in the school system, okay? It's not like that $1,000 increase was the magic 1,000 that did all this, okay? You increased your funding, right? But the overall impact of your funding improved, right? Kids were learning more. And quite frankly, 10, 15 years ago, people would have said this was impossible. You can't expect the public school system to get better unless there are still people that make this claim, right? You can't expect any improvement unless there's massive funding increases. Well, there it is, okay? Now, how does this inform our sort of view of things going forward, okay? And what is it that we face going forward? Well, More than anything else, the bottom line is that every single day between now and the year 2030, 10,000 baby boomers in America reach retirement age. When you get to 2030, every single baby boomer has reached retirement age, okay? The same time that is going on, many states, including the state of Florida, are also going to be having an increase in their K-12 population. If I had one sentence to summarize this, is that baby boomers are retiring and they're sending their grandchildren to school at the same time, okay? Now, The Economist magazine, I think, did a great job of summarizing, sort of the challenge that we see here. And I'd like you to take just a second to read this quote, because to me, this kind of sums it all up. I won't read it myself, but take a look at that. It's pretty chilling, right? This is the reality, the first part of this thing especially, right? Is there any doubt in anyone that this is what is going on right now, okay? We have to do better than this, and this is going to be, the reform that has to happen to do better than this has to start at the state level, okay? The state is where the rubber hits the road in American democracy. Okay, so what is in Florida's future? Let's talk specifically about Florida. When you look into the age demographic projections, you see a good deal of this, okay? There is an increase in the youth population in the state of Florida projected on the way, and it's big. And it's far bigger than anything that is currently can be accommodated by, for instance, our choice programs. Secondly, all states are going to see a lot more of this, okay? The increase in the elderly population that we will see is unprecedented, okay? We've literally just never dealt with something like this before. Just a huge increase in the number of people aged 65 and older. Some states will be facing both of these trends at exactly the same time, and Florida is one of those states. Okay, so about K-12, we understand, why, the expenses involved in K-12 aged kids. What people don't tend to have a good grasp on is the state expenses associated with elderly residents, okay? Now, this primarily comes through the program, the Medicaid program. There are two healthcare programs. One is Medicare, and that is for the elderly, right? And it's federally financed, and states don't really have much to do with it. Medicaid is a program that is jointly financed by the federal government and state governments, okay? And what people don't understand about Medicaid is that elderly people already consume a majority of the funding in the program, okay? Medicaid takes up about 23% of the average state's budget, okay? As you see this chart here, the average elderly recipient of Medicaid is drawing on a far greater level of resources than the average adult or child. And when you project to have a big increase in the number of people aged 65 and older and whatnot, it's pretty clear where this is going, all else being equal. Oops. Okay, Governor mentioned the concept of dependency ratios, okay? Now, economists have come up with dependency ratios as sort of a measurement of societal strain, okay? Now, at any given time as you age through life, right, you start in the age dependency numerator, right? You grow older, you get to be working age, you're out of it. You get to be retirement age, you're back in the numerator, okay? Sort of a life cycle thing. But the basic point that the economists are making here is that at any given time, if your working age population is relatively small, right, you have problems, okay? It's more challenging. It's simply that you have fewer people of working age to support people who are young, who draw upon state services, primarily in the form of K-12 education, but also in other forms, and more people over the age of 65 who are drawing upon state resources, primarily in the form of healthcare. Okay, so this is the formula. It looks complicated, but actually it's pretty simple. It's how big is your working age population at any given moment? Now, economists have found that high age dependency ratios are associated with slower economic growth, okay? There are very serious economists who are projecting a historical, like a reduction in the American rate of economic growth. I certainly hope that doesn't happen, because that will have a big impact on state revenue growth, right? Which is going to make this problem that we have even more difficult to deal with. This is a chart that our friends at the Freeman Foundation came up with. I think it kind of illustrates things. Now, this is not to say that everyone who's over the age of 65 is dependent. Let me be sure to say that, right? We're painting with a broad brush here. But basically, the concept behind age dependency ratio is how many people do you have riding in the cart to every 100 people pushing the cart at any given time. And this is the projection for the entire country of what's going to happen between 2010 and 2030. The age dependency ratio is going to go up, and it is going to have a lot of impact. So I wanted to illustrate this with a large family group of people who I could look up their ages on the internet, okay? So I chose the House of Windsor. Now, you're probably thinking, why did you choose the House of Windsor? We had a revolution to get away from these people and whatnot, and that's true. And the answer is because Patricia was worried about what I might do with the Bush clan. So it's the basic same thing, though, okay? In this, the age dependency ratio of the House of Windsor is really low. What you have here are two honored elders, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. And then under them, you have a whole gaggle of baby boomers, right? Led by Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales. Then below them, you have a whole bunch of millennials and youngsters. And then way down there at the bottom, right? The millennials have started having children, okay? So the age dependency ratio of this photograph, with a few guesses here and there, is about 33, okay? If this House of Windsor was a state, they would be rocking it, right? They don't have very many people who are retired. They don't have that many education expenses. Almost everyone here is working age, right? So you're rocking along. This is sort of the United States in decades past, okay? Now in your mind's eye, let's move this forward 15 years, right? The problem is that you see the oldest of the baby boomers there, Prince Charles. He's 65 years old right now, okay? So what happens is that all of those baby boomers you see below Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, right? You don't have 2 honored elders, you have 9 honored elders, right? And the millennials move up, and they're the ones that are working age, paying the taxes to try to support all this. And they will have additional children there at the bottom as well, okay? So the entire squeeze that comes in is on the millennial generation that has to pay the taxes for both of them. Okay, looking at census projections, these are the states. I like to call this as the states in big trouble chart. It's showing you the increase of 18-year-olds down the bottom and 65 older, and you may notice that Florida looks, lots of trouble there. We actually have 2 sets of projections for Florida. One of them comes from your own Office of Economic and Demographic Research. They have a set of projections about what's going to happen in Florida age demography. They see a problem coming, okay? The age dependency ratio with the EDR projections goes up to about 78, okay? The Census Bureau projections, now these are 2005 projections, and they're going to be revised, shows an even bigger problem, okay? Now, these are different because of differences in estimation techniques and whatnot, and it's over my pay grade to tell you which one is right. They're neither one of them right. They're both estimates, but I can tell you this. They're both showing trouble ahead, okay? If you believe the EDR estimates, the age dependency ratio of Florida goes to 78. If you believe the Census Bureau, it goes to 89. 89 people in the car for every 100 pushing it. If I were a betting man, I'd bet somewhere in between of these two things, but both of them are trouble. 78 is trouble and 89 is trouble, okay? So what do we have to do with this? There's no single solution. There's no way to fix this problem with just education reform. There's going to be a variety of different policy areas that have to be fundamentally rethought. Think of it this way. Having multiple generations of people alive at the same time is a great blessing. It's just that the American welfare state is not set up for it, okay? It really is, that's the case. In education, we need to, as Governor mentioned, find ways to get better results, to increase the effectiveness of our K-12 system at the same time that we increase the cost effectiveness of this. And in the study, we talk a great deal about various policies that are more robust, coming out of older policies, things like recovery school districts, for instance, are far more powerful than just a charter school law. An education savings account mechanism is far more powerful than a tax credit charter school or a school voucher, because it gives a parent an account to control and gives them an incentive to economize, because they can save money for future higher education expenses. A blended learning model is far more powerful than a overhead projector, okay? All of these things are being experimented with, but one of the points in the study is that we really need to get on this because the clock is ticking. But let me suggest to you what the numbers show is that this is still not good enough, okay? You can't be satisfied even after all this improvement with a system that is producing in the 30 to low 40 range for proficiency rates. Florida has been a national leader, but you've got more work to do and you've got a big problem ahead. Okay, so in essence, the message is this. Anyone remember Dr. Malcolm there? Okay, must go faster. Ignoring this problem is not going to make it go away. Okay, I mean, it would be great if we could just ignore this problem and it would go away. Okay, we can't. But the good thing is that, I mean, imagine you're one of those other states in that first chart that barely made any progress. You guys have a huge head start. You are the leaders, okay? Where Florida leads, others will follow. So thank you very much, and I think the next panel needs to come up.